rebuilding. The catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40. We focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey there, and welcome to episode 112 of the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Today I want to talk about getting up early. You know, I had been back to teaching the 5:45 a.m. boot classes from January till about, almost June. So January till about April, I had gotten back to teaching the 5:45 a.m. That meant getting up at 5 a.m. And in fact, when I first started Hostile years ago, we had a 6 a.m. class, and I taught the classes for almost 7 years. And then we went to 5:45 because we thought it was a better time, so even earlier. And I remember a lot of people who knew me were always amazed that I was up that early because I wasn't traditionally that morning person, right? I had no problem working till 2 or 3 in the morning or drinking till 2 or 3 in the morning. That wasn't the issue. But getting up early wasn't my gig. I would get up in time to get the kids to school, 8:30 in the morning. And if I did have to take the kids in, I would get up at 10. And in my mind, I'd work all day long and I'd work late and stuff. So at the end of the day, that part didn't seem to matter overall. But in actuality, it did. When I even think back about, getting up that early, sure, it was tough. But it had to be done. And it was easier for me to make that switch back then because it was business and it had to be done. And for me, whenever that's the issue, that's the decision maker, it's a no-brainer. We do what we have to do for the business, for the brand. It's that simple. And in fact, back then, I often drank at the pub upstairs till 1 or 2 in the morning, would go home, have a quick shower, get 2 or 3 hours sleep and come back in. So, in reality, I wonder, how did I ever do it? And the fact is, overall, not very well. Right? To the outside world, it looked really well. It looked good and it was functional, but for me, it wasn't functional. So it was getting done, but it was wearing on me, and I wasn't making the best of the opportunity of getting up early. So, when I look back, I'd gotten away from it for a while. I was doing other things. I was focusing on other things. The business was at a certain point. I had a coach who would take those classes. So probably up until January of this year, 2018, I had stepped back off those morning classes for a good, 9 months, maybe even a year. And, when I sit down and I look and I evaluate productivity and how I was getting things done, I just sort of felt for a while that I wasn't getting as much done. And sometimes you have a hunch and you're really not quite sure something's off. So I just sat down one day and really started thinking about it. And I was finding that I was struggling to get a lot done during the day, even though I had the whole day to do it. And when I really looked back and I started to think back when I was at my most productive, when I got the most things happening and the ball rolling and expansions and growth and just, all the good stuff. When I look back, it happened when I was getting up early in the morning. In fact, when I was getting up early in the morning and I started journaling, when I first started the morning rituals for myself, I would get up at 4 a.m. I would journal till 5:15, do my rituals, then drive to the gym, then teach at 5:45, right? And then get a lot more done. And when I started to look back, at my notes back then, when I thought about what was happening, I had so much productivity level. It was incredible. I realized that I wasn't as productive when I didn't get up as early. Now, you talk to a lot of people that, talk about productivity, talk about getting things done. There's two camps. There's one camp that says it doesn't matter what time you do it as long as you do it and you're focused. But there's a very strong camp that talks about the earlier, the better. Right? And I can't remember the stat, so I'm going to make one up. But when they interviewed top performing CEOs of large companies, the companies that experienced incredible growth, I want to say something like 75 or even close to 80% of those CEOs were early risers that got things done. Now, not every one of them did the morning rituals, the way I like to talk about it and the way I like to do it, where you journal and you do your different things. But they still got up early and they read, or they got up early and they exercised, or they got up early and they meditated. The point is that they get up early and get started. And a lot of them would say, and I find this to be true, is that, it's the quietest. The house is quiet. The world is quiet. So you can think and work on things and not have the interruptions, because once your business, and we're always talking about business a lot, but once your career or your business or things really starts to take off, once you step into it for the day, there's just a lot of things coming at you. So it's really hard to sit there and plan and put together objectives and look back and see how you're doing when you're in the middle of doing your job, your career, running your business. We work really hard to get to the point where the phone's always ringing. And then after a while, we start to get annoyed if the phone's ringing because it's interrupting us. But listen, I'd rather have a ringing phone than a phone that doesn't ring, because that's a huge difference. Having people come in, into your business and interrupt you, I just did air quotes there, is a good thing to have, because when you first start a business, nobody's coming in. Right? So that's why sometimes we feel like we got a lot more done back then, is because we had the quiet time in the middle of our day or as part of our day, so we could get more done. We could plan more. We could look at executing on a higher level. But that double-edged sword, becoming a victim of our success, is when things just get busier throughout the day, you just can't sit and plan. You can't sit and create. You can't sit and evaluate when the phone's ringing, the music's blaring, and people are coming in and they want to talk to you. That's just not the time. So you have to find that time. You have to create that space to be able to get inside your own head and do your rituals, right? And I don't really care what your rituals are overall. If you have a plan and a system and you're working it, you're further ahead than most people. We can always look at tweaking what the plan is and what's happening then. But that part is so important, to be able to sit there and to be objective and to be calm and to listen to what's being the noise inside your head and listen to what your subconscious is trying to tell you. Sometimes we get so caught up on what we're doing, we don't realize that we're way off the point. We're headed towards something else than we wanted to be heading towards, or we don't even know. We talk a lot about course correction. Well, the only way to course correct is to be able to look at the information coming at you, evaluate, and make your adjustments. That's not happening during the day. That's not happening when you've got 9 meetings in a day or 3 meetings in a day, or you work in a space where there's interruptions and there's noise and activity. That's just not the time to do it. You can't do it. So the productivity breaks down. We might get caught up in, hey, we're working and we're busy, but sometimes we're just stuck in that busy work, in the doing, not in the planning. There's a term we use a lot in developing our businesses. There's a certain point where you have to stop working in your business and start working on your business, right? And if you want to grow and you want to scale and you want to go to the next level, or you want to be able to stop from working 80 hours a week, you've got to be able to start working on your business as opposed to in your business. And working on your business can't happen inside your business. You have to be removed. So the mornings are quite often the easiest time to do it. Now, I know some people that'll do it in the evening, by the time they get home, if they don't have kids or the kids are older. We're in a stage now where my kids are 15 and 17. So, come 6, 7 o'clock at night, they're either on the way to something, on the way back. My son is driving now, so he can take his sister. My wife still gets involved and drives them around all over the place. So, I can come home at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, and either it's quiet because everyone's gone, or it's quiet because everyone's gone to bed. But it's the end of my day as well. So sometimes I'll get some work in. That's typically when I like to, surf the weeb and see what's going on and look into different things and do a little bit of research as I kind of wind down. But my productivity, my brain dumping, my focus, my planning, my execution works better when I'm up early in the morning. And at the end of the day, it's an adjustment, because that's the biggest complaint I hear. Like, I have a hard time getting up in the morning. Well, we usually have a hard time getting up in the morning because we don't go to bed till much later, right? So we're up, and if you're up late because you got something going on, I get it. But most times, the last hour or 2 or 3 that we're up, we're sitting in front of the TV, right? We're at the pub. right? We're playing darts. I'm not saying none of that stuff is good, but those become your rituals. And when those become your rituals, it really affects your overall productivity, right? So it's to make the changes. So just set your alarm 15 minutes earlier. I agree. If you normally get up at 7:30 and you know all of a sudden you want to set your alarm for 4, that's going to mess your shit up because your body isn't used to it. Your cycles aren't used to it. The household isn't used to it. That's really tough. And if you start getting up 3 hours earlier, I guarantee you in the middle of the day you're going to be freaking tired. But do it gradually. If you normally get up at 7:30, start getting up at 7:15 or 7. Right? And get up. Don't hit that snooze button 7 times. Sit up. First thing I tell people right off the bat is as soon as your alarm goes off, or if you wake up just before your alarm, just sit up. That makes a big difference. It's hard, right? Because we're comfortable, we're cozy, we're snuggling, or whatever we're doing, right? And it's cold above the sheets and stuff, or we are a little groggy. Sit up. As soon as you sit up, blood starts flowing, things start moving. It's a lot easier overall, right? But for me, that was the big thing. Is realizing that getting back to early made a big difference for me. So, I used to say I'm not a morning person. I am a morning person. I'm a morning person because that's the person I wanted to become. And who I want to become, the success I want to have, the growth I want to experience personally, business-wise, and everything I'm working on, you have to become a morning person, in my opinion. You have to become that, right? And if we put that in our head where we're not this, we're not this. So if we just embrace it and say, you know what, I get up early now. And you'll find that sweet spot. You'll find that spot that works really well for you. All right. Give yourself some time. Like I said, don't try to do it, overnight, in an instant, because you didn't get to these patterns overnight as well. And I think that's something we have to work on. But just make it a goal for the next 2 weeks. You're getting up, 15 to 30 minutes earlier, and get used to that. Get settled, and all of a sudden, you know what happens? You got time for breakfast. You got time to plan your meals. You got time to prepare a meal to take with you to work. So all of a sudden, you're eating out less and you're saving more money, or you're eating out less. You're eating better food, so you're feeling better and operating at a higher level, right? Get up earlier and start working on these things before the chaos of the day sets in. Guys, that's all I have to say on that for now. I want you guys to head on over to iTunes or at the end of this episode and leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review if you'd like. That would help us dramatically. Head on over to hostilegear.com. Use the code Silverback to save 20%. And as always, work hard, motherfuckers. And I'll talk to you guys later.